This is Simon.
Mopsy Kane Muba. Schwabe Bar Glarb.
And last we left Simon, we were in the middle of our Rags to Riches challenge. We were trying to complete the Mansion Baron aspiration by hosting a series of parties and inviting people to our household. However, in being too kind and letting the wrong man go, we fell victim to a sabotage. But forgive and forget. You're not here to see any of that, right? Alright, so we're back. So, actually the last time I left, I believe we were struggling to complete Tier 2 of the Mansion Baron aspiration, so we started another party in order to get past that 100,000 mark and find $5,000 worth of landscaping, which is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Now, am I proud of how we finished that landscaping? Okay. But that's not all I'm ashamed of this episode. As this is the last episode, we are stretching it all the way through to the end, so strap in. Anyways, with the landscaping portion finished, we quickly breezed past the $100,000 mark with our next party. And what is this guy's name? Oh yeah, Umber Grove. He had a cute little Western family. I believe he's part of the Western DLC. And so, in Western spirit, I separated not the man from the family, but the horse. I took their tiniest horse, Starbright. And my first and only shot of Starbright walking up to our family for the first time is tainted by him. Anyways, I quickly set up a little a little bed and water trough for Starbright, and then right after that was when I finished the landscaping. On to Tier 3, baby. Alright, let me show you. Okay, so now we had to have a house worth 200,000 simoleons and have 30 windows, which I think I already had 30 windows. But oh man, so the confines of the plot was really setting in now at this point. I went ahead and started planning my next party, but if I was going to double my money, I was done with the $20,000 jumps. I needed a big fish, and so I set my sights on Mortimer Goth, baby! Also known as the best townie ever in Sims. You can give that the Becky stamp of approval. Mortimer Boots Goth is a freelance writer who has amassed a fortune and built a beautiful mansion. Look at this. His aspiration says he's a Renaissance man, but we all know he's a family man with, Bella Goth. Come on! And two beautiful children, Alexander and Cassandra. He gives vampire realness 100% of the time. I love him. Great guy. And we jump back into our party. So throwing these parties is a little bit more difficult than it was in our humble beginnings with about 3 rooms and a tiny house. We have to corral everybody from the entire premises in order to get into this one room, which is a lot more difficult than it sounds. And so, Simon became very familiar with Mortimer Goth. You know the process by now. We talk and we talk and we talk, and Simon was getting better at this. Simon was churning and burning. However, with Mortimer Goth, there was respect to do. We were taking our time, but before long, we got it, baby. We got it, and what do we see? 40-something. I can't, it's too, how much? 45? Yeah, 45, baby. We see 45, which is just a smidge off of the land grab fortune. Beautiful. Fantastic addition. It's like a ritual at this point to dress the new family in Western attire. It's like our initiation. And we, of course, gave him all black and all red, as you do. I also went ahead and dressed our most senior member of our family, Dennis Kim. I realized that we hadn't done that yet, and still wanted to preserve his old grumpy Korean grandfatherness, so I kept some of that, but decided to go with a nice blue for his anyways. So, if you have a keen eye, I'm sure you've noticed already, the yin-yang rug here in the middle of the Forever Party, and a couple of extra things around. Travis had a negative moodlet at one point. He wanted more decoration, so, okay, the entire house, more decoration. Look at this place. Just stuffed to the brim with decoration. So, it was officially time for an expansion. What I thought would be the final expansion. It's really time to push this lot to its limits, okay? We want this lot busting out the seams, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna take it to the height limit. Something montage. Yeah, this is exactly what you think it is. I had to close the game. Lost the progress there. Lost the save. Not everything, just building. So had to restart that. But that's a sign from Simon. Sign from God. Sign from the sim. Okay. Here's Simon talking to Jeffrey about basketball and cops for some reason. Now, we'll take a look at that expansion, but first, Simon began to have restless sleep and odd dreams. He was in the party room, but it was different. He was alone. He could not stop dreaming of the lost parties and of the man responsible. Simon had a plan. He sent boy Travis on an errand, and while on that errand, we can take a look at our new expansion. Okay, so first of all, the office that was Jeffrey Landgrab's office, I destroyed and made into a bigger room with a stairwell into the, what is this, the 3rd floor now, I think? But don't worry, because I gave him a bedroom. He's the only other bedroom in the house besides Simon. This giant mansion is a two bedroom, 1 bath. Anyways, yeah, see, here we go. This is Jeffrey Landgrab's bedroom. How cute. The floor above, I turned into a second living room with a bathtub over there. Wooden bathtub. Who doesn't want a wooden bathtub in the living room? And besides some of the balconies, that's our expansion. I'm going for a Ghibli-esque saloon. Western saloon. Has that sentence ever been said before? Okay, that's enough. I've given the Sims people enough content. Simon knew it was time to call the Pancake Man. He could not get him out of his head. He knew that he had done the right thing in giving the man back to his family, but maybe this was the wrong thing for Simon. Maybe this weakness is what led him to losing the party. That's right, he would have to set an example for the other members of the house and for the other partygoers. Simon's kindness was met with betrayal, and therefore, there would be no more kindness from Simon.
Kanemumba Yalig, Shima Whisper, Josna Snurv Ibu, Oma Sturta, Upa Twe Boy Nooch, Ampler If, Kanemumba Yalig Whisper, Upa Twe Boy Nooch, Josna Snurv Ibu, Oma Sturta, Kanemumba.
Want the sicker booze. Embryo. Almost did. Algorithm.
I not only sent Travis out into the world, but Jeffrey as well, to meet with the Pancake Woman, as Simon had never met her. Bob had never brought her to any party. And so, they converged, and made friends. To what ends, Jeffrey did not know. But Simon did. Simon stood above the Pancake Man and spilled his writings while his wife was enthused by that which Simon grew in the basement. That which he sent Travis to unknowingly fetch, unaware of what it would behold. Bob Pancakes could feign that he didn't care, staring at his phone. It would not change the fact that his wife would die. And his wife could pretend to friend the cow and pretend to not care about the cake in front of her face, but she was not getting out of here, and Simon knew that she was getting hungry. However, it did take a very long time, so Simon went back inside, and here's security camera footage of what happened next. It was Simon's hubris that got him into this mess, and his hubris which ended him up in the mouth of the cow. Lucky for us, the cow plant does not like the taste of psychopath, so he quickly spit Simon out. This left Simon dazed for several days, but otherwise fine. Just a little bit emotionally injured and stinky. On top of that, as soon as Simon went back in the house, he noticed the party was gone again. I took the opportunity to try and change some things around with the floor plan, but I decided it was best to leave it. But we started planning a new party, but the parties kept leaving. And Bob had been trapped the whole time, but it's like as soon as Bob is on our premises, something happens with the parties. I didn't know what it was, but somehow I knew it was Bob's fault. So, with a new party and a new friend, and this guy, Giancarlo, who was also evil. I mean, not also. The tender guests watched as the Pancake Man's wife was taken into the Maw of the Cow the first time, as he did, unfortunately, spit her back out. However, this means that only one more time, and the pancake curse would end. Man, look at this nice full house on the main menu. Wow. Yes, I did recruit Giancarlo. We had spent a lot of money upgrading the house, and while we were waiting on Eliza to die, we had run out of money. Look at that down there, $20,000, and that's just from Giancarlo. Also, Dennis is very angry. But in spending nearly $100,000 on the house, that means we had crossed the threshold into the final bits of the challenge, Tier 4. We had already gotten the columns down, the 20 columns, because that was what I had edged the house with, and now all we needed was to have a home worth 350,000 simoleons. Baby! Exciting, and here's 20,000 more. However, our issue is that we just kept pulling people into our house. This Giancarlo guy, this, what is his name? Torres guy, who also robbed me, might I add. Look at this. Dye your hair into a green mohawk and leave half of it hanging out the back of your beanie. Like I know it's you, bro. Okay, anyways. So, like I said before, the actual expansion of the property was getting relatively limited on the plot, so it left it up to decoration, so that's what I did. I put a lot of high-value decoration about the house. And you can see here at 214,000, we were closing in ever slowly on our goal. So anyways, with the incorporation of our robber into our house, we ended up getting the full house achievement, which really wasn't one that I wanted. And also it made Simon tense because he didn't like Torres because he robbed him. Which, you know, as you do. But Simon could talk these people into moving in with him in a matter of 15 minutes. And so we talked to just about anybody and could get just about anybody in the family. But I didn't want just about anybody. I wanted the right people. So I removed the people that made the home a little too full. Thought about letting Mortimer Goth back to his family, but he's a healthy addition. He stays. And so does Starbright. Why would Starbright leave? Starbright is an integral part of the family. And so, Simon began to preach once more to the couple, waiting on Eliza to die. However, it genuinely took like 3 in-game days. Like, she would not eat. She knew that the cow, okay. I put the 2 extras from my family into the Pancakes family and put the 2 pancakes in my household, so we could go ahead and get this thing underway. It was finally done. Like moths in a flame, everybody in the household began to swarm around the first death the property had seen. The Grim Reaper taunted Bob Pancakes further by playing with the plant which killed Bob Pancake's wife. And as Simon went back into the house, the party was gone again. And genuinely didn't understand it at this point. So there's only one more thing to do. We had to add to the value of the house anyways. We constructed a large wall around the premises. That way we could, the entire property would be the party room, right? You know, I can just lock the door. I can just lock the gate. Easy. So we started a new party. Simon got to doing what he did best and what he enjoyed most, making new friends. We began talking to this woman that was part of the Western DLC and found out that she hated children, though she had 2 of them. So we took one. I mean, you know, what else are you supposed to do? And we were a family member down, so throw her on in there. Little Alondra walked up and really stirred something within Simon. You know, Simon had cared for things before, namely a cow plant and a horse. Well, mostly the horse was Jeffrey, but anyways, Alondra would require more attention from Simon and his family, and I guess it made him sentimental. Despite the teasing he had done of Travis and the ordering around he had done of both Jeffrey and Travis and the rest of his household, Simon grew to love his family. He knew that he was put on this big empty lot alone, and that when he crossed that $350,000 threshold, he was going to have to finish this challenge, but he was going to miss his family and the little memories that he had made with them. But love for his true family aside, that did not stop the fact that Bob Pancakes was still on Simon's property. The plan had come to fruition, but there was still a hunger within Simon. He did not believe the curse was over. Bob had to die. On top of that, Simon had another party going within his new wall, and no matter how many people he would invite and how much money he would take, as long as Bob was on the property, the party would always just end up vanishing, like this one. On top of that, odd things started happening. I just couldn't find some people sometimes around my household, and I kept getting random value jumps in my house. And I couldn't really get it on recording, one, because I noticed it later, and two, because I didn't have the value of my house pulled up, but I was losing random bits of money. That's why I went broke a couple minutes ago. Again, I'm not a Sims 4 maxer, so it could have been disappearing for a very good reason, but I tried to look it up, and did not find anything. And it wasn't like a couple simoleons, it was like tens of thousands, so I don't know. So the only logical thing I could think is while Bob Pancakes was on my property, I was still cursed. And so, I got Travis, Starbright, and some random person to come and watch as he died. Simon preached as the Grim Reaper pulled out a tablet, and some people listened to Simon preach. And then we went on with our lives. Actually, we tried to make friends with the Grim Reaper, but he teleported away before we could, sadly. And then we saw it was Alola's birthday. Aww. So we decided to carve her out a little place of her own in the mansion. Quickest little montage ever there for you. Sticking with the Studio Ghibli thing, I decided to make it like a floating extension and just make it her little bedroom. How cute. Now with the Pancake Man gone, a gentle peace fell over the house as we were nearing close to the end with the construction of Alola's little extension. Simon had more people over to collect more money to finish off the challenge as we spoke to a woman who glowed ethereally as we got a notification. Not one that I can find in my footage, however, but Dennis Kim was nearing the end of his life. And while we had made a lot of great memories, him walking up 4 flights of stairs, 2 ladders, just to get to a single bed outside, I knew the right thing to do was to put him back with his family in his last days of life. And so that's what I did. Simon knew this property had seen enough death, natural or not, and something had stirred within him. He knew that with the completion of this challenge, his time on this property would end. And with Alola, whose birth name was Alondra, we know, but Simon likes Alola better, the house was seeing youth. And within Alola, Simon saw a new purpose, to shepherd her, and make sure that she was safe and didn't have to witness what Simon did. He would turn this house into something beautiful, more beautiful than it was, for Alola, and for everybody else that he loved in this house, before Simon made his way out. So he thought that Travis's shed would be a good start. He thought he owed him a little thank you, so he wanted to go and soup it up a little bit for his buddy. But that's when he noticed something. There was a ladder. Simon didn't build this. What was this? There was a whole room down here. And there was technology. Expensive computers and a portrait of Bob Pancakes on the wall. There's papers around, storage shelves, there's a map of the city, and there was 4 workstations. I followed the pathway and saw that the ladder led right under the rug in the party room. Had Travis built all of this right under his shed? Is that why he was so content living outside? And if he lived outside, why would he be upset about the decorations on the inside, wanting more rugs in the house? So he could plan to hide the ladder? Good reason, but I tried to look it up and did not find anything. And it wasn't like a couple simoleons, it was like tens of thousands, so I don't know. Each of those computers on those desks cost 10,000. This explains the random value jumps and the money losses and the lost parties. Did this mean that Bob Pancakes wasn't actually ever really the bad guy? and that both Bob and even Eliza died for nothing. I mean, half the reason we got rid of Eliza was for vengeance, for the parties, because of Bob, but the other reason was this curse that we thought had... But it was Travis letting people out of the parties, and it was Travis spending the money. Simon had had countless sleepless nights wondering if what he did was the wrong or the right thing, wondering if he was the bad guy. But now he realized the truth. He had spent all this time changing, and it was all for nothing. It was time for the end. Simon knew it needed to be done. He needed about 50,000 to finish off this challenge and only had 34,000, and bills were about to be taken out as well. Simon began to talk like his life depended on it because at this point, it very well may. The jig was up. Everybody in the house sat in a quiet unease because they knew that Simon had figured it out. Unfortunately, at this point, I lost count of how many people I had befriended, so this person was already taken from. So, as we pivoted, Alondra aged up. I chose her stuff and, of course, dressed her in Western attire before rising back to above ground to resume the party and get the last little bit of money we needed to complete the challenge before we enacted our final vengeance on the rest of the household. Our target was this woman, who would be means to an end for us enacting our vengeance. I would like to say that this all went smoothly, but the house was tainted. Simon couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, he would get dirty quickly. Everybody in the house would. Everybody was upset. There weren't enough toilets. It was crowded. There's horse crap everywhere. Everybody's walled in. And on top of that, Simon was sad because of Bob now. However, we pushed through. And yes, this pushed us over the $50,000 mark. However, nobody can run from the man, and we were getting our power shut off. So, $13,000 down the drain. A mansion isn't an expensive thing to run. Simon was putting all of his effort into vengeance, and he had a little bit of time to take a shower, but look at this. The sink's flooding, the radio doesn't work, there's stinky dishes everywhere. Ugh. In the wake of this betrayal, the house had surely run out of love. Unfortunately, there was a time limit on Simon's vengeance, because if the four of them could band together to host an operation so secret, then of course they could band together against Simon, if they hadn't already. And so it was all down to this woman, whose name has become unimportant. One final convincing before we reached the end. And it took convincing. Both of us smelled like piss, and she kept falling asleep. I had to kick her on the side. Hey, get up! Move into my house! Do it. But it was effective. And ladies and gentlemen, we did it. Look at it, 20,000, the final 20,000 that we would ever have to see. And it went right into our pockets for 44,000, that's all we would need. Her teenage son, I deemed homeless. Who cares where he goes? It was time to decorate and finish this off. Violin, there. Virtuoso violin, there. This one, there. Who cares about the Western aesthetic at this point? Bang a computer on that desk. Alondra needs a new bookshelf. Bang, bookshelf. We were the closest we had ever been, and before they got the jump on me, I would get the jump on them. And the last piece of furniture, poetically, was in Travis's little bastard tunnel. There it is, baby. Bastardization aside, Simon had done it. Tier 4, he was a mansion barren. And a house that just felt empty. There was no love here, like when this place first started. The group's betrayal led Simon to his final vengeance. He had a plan. He climbed out of the bastard tunnel, only to find himself stuck inside the party room. He was out of money, but he had some stuff from his household inventory to make him feel at home. Before long, he felt like he was back where he started, sitting in his party room around a fire. He knew that if he was quiet and patient, that eventually he could get Alondra to come and open the door for him. He would just have to exact his part of the plan, which was to add logs to this fire. You see, the others may not know it. For them it was just starting, but for Simon, that was the end. He had completed what he wanted to complete. He had found his truth, and why he was here, and why he was done here. And so, he added logs to the proverbial fire. He had started his life here by throwing parties, a bonfire, and now, it was time to throw one last fire. The fire started in the party room. Travis immediately came to Simon's rescue. And that was his last mistake. Travis could not choose love now. Simon quickly shoved him in the party room, locked the door, took Alola, Starbright, and ran. And that was the end. There was nothing left of that house. When the fire started, there was 4 people trapped in the basement, but fire rises, so they were safe. And Simon, and Alondra, and Starbright got out. The 3 of them didn't have anything left, but they did have each other. And that was all they needed. So, for the first time, Simon got on his horse. And he left. Well, shoot. We did it. I just want to give a big old thank you to fucking nobody because I did that shit by myself. Woo, I'm pumped up. I feel like I ran a marathon. No, actually though, I do want to thank each and every one of you that have commented, that have liked, that have even watched and not interacted whatsoever. You are the reason that this video exists, or that any of this exists, or that I decided to make more of this stuff. Thank you guys so much. I cannot say that enough. Like I said in part 2, YouTube doesn't do anything for me until I reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you can help me do that in any way, I'd love you for it. That is about all I have. And a special thanks to these people who stuck around through part 1 and 2 and encouraged me to make more, and a couple more out there that I may have missed here. I'm sorry about that. But stick around. I have more coming your way soon. Thank you guys so much. That's all. See ya.